My name is Deb McGregor, and I am one of the consultants with the West Central Minnesota Small Business Development Center. And today our topic is what's important now. Please feel free to be jotting down things as we go through the presentation, and we'll continue to build on each step so that by the time you leave this presentation, you will be able to implement what we're learning now. About what's important now. That's on a kind of funny all of a sudden. We're going to do this in three parts. The first is what's at stake. Why is it important to actually look at how we prioritize and what's important now? Then we're going to look at how we actually do that. And then we're going to talk about focus and accountability, because without the focus and accountability, you don't really implement anything and you don't really move to where it is that you want to be. So part one, what's at stake? So this is interesting, and raise your hand if you have felt any of these things, especially probably during the COVID pandemic. You're running around, everything is looking like a blur. You don't even know what to focus on next. Everything is literally, you just feel like it's day to day, like you're am I going to make it through the day? And it can often feel like that blurry sensation. A lot of people are noticing they're feeling very overwhelmed. They can't think straight. They're not sure what they should do next. Some people are even paralyzed in fear, like they can't do anything. So how would you even know what's important now if you don't even feel like you can do anything? And also people are noticing that they're spinning their wheels. And it sometimes feels like the hamster on the wheel because you go around and around and around because you can't make a decision on what you should do next. And you just literally, you end up going in a circle. You don't end up getting anywhere that you want to be. Some people have actually even been noticing physical or physiological manifestations as well. We're seeing a lot of people with the headaches, the muscle strain, the shoulders aching. And so these are all things why it's important for us and what's at stake by knowing what's important now. Because if we're spinning on a wheel or we don't know what to do next, we're not getting ourselves anywhere. Our bodies are taking it on, and we're not really good for anyone. Lack of the focus and what's important now actually spills into all areas of your life. And this is why, especially with so many of us working from home right now, you will notice that literally you walk out of the bedroom where you're working and you might be upset with something related to work, and you go out and it gets taken out on everybody else, right? Because we don't really have that space. So even it's more critical now than ever before to be able to hone in and focus in on what's important now. Trust me, everybody around you will be much happier. So I want you to imagine this field of daisies, and kind of as you look at it, I mean, there's a lot to take in from the scene, right? When we focus in on what's important now, we get so focused and so like we literally are able to hone in on that one daisy that's important now. So that even when we go back to the field of daisies, I can guarantee you all know exactly which daisy was the what's important now daisy, because we got super hyper focused in on that thing. So even though everything else was going on around us, we knew exactly where we needed to hone in and focus. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you so honed in and focused that all of this other stuff may be happening around you, but we're able to get in and we're able to focus on the what's important now. Good morning. I noticed that someone else just joined us. Welcome, welcome. We just got started a couple minutes ago. So feel free to ask any questions. I'm just going to keep on rolling, and then we'll get you up to speed as it seems necessary if you have any questions. So now let's talk about the how to get to that what's important now. I like to think of it as a step-by-step process. And at first when we're doing this, you might be going, where is she going with this? Trust me, trust the process, this works. I do this every day. I have been doing this for a long time. Some people even, they're like, Deb, we have no idea how you do so much of what you do. And I know it's because I use these processes all the time. And so I'm able to look at what's important now, keep everything else on that perimeter, but really hone in on, okay, this is what I need to do now, keep these other things going, but here's what needs my time and attention now. So we're going to do this together, and it's going to be amazing. So there are three main steps that we want to cover in this process. That's prioritizing, delegating, and making decisions. Sometimes what happens is people say, well, yeah, these things are all priorities, but then they either don't delegate some of that out or they don't make decisions. So what happens is they say, well, geez, I've got 10 things sitting on this list, but they don't make a decision about which one comes first. And that's oftentimes where people get stuck. And that is often why things don't move forward. And remember that little hamster wheel we talked about? They may have 10 priorities sitting there, but they're going round and round because they haven't made a decision about which one to do first. That's why the what's important now becomes so relevant for this. Your vision of where the business is going is a guide for all of this. So I always like to say that's a whole nother training that maybe we'll do at some point. But that vision of your business, that vision of where you're going, that is how you actually are looking at what's important now, because you want those decisions to be tying in on where your business is going. So that also makes it easier to release things that don't tie into it at all. This is an area that I've really had to work with pretty intentionally in my life, because I'm one of those people that has like not a million ideas a day, but I probably get a million ideas a month. I'm an ideation person. And so it's really easy to say, oh, I could do this, or I could do this, oh, I could do this. And it's like, da, 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 and my brain just goes. And what I realize is that a lot of those ideas are great ideas, and they don't tie into my business or the vision of where I want to be. So make sure you have, a clear vision of where you're going, where you want to be, because as you're looking at these, the 3-step process, that is going to be critical for you. So I talk about this proverbial to-do list, and this is actually going to serve us during this training. So if you don't have a sheet of paper, grab a sheet of paper. What I want you to do right now, just jot down 5 to 10 things that are sitting on your to-do list right now. Some of you probably have it sitting in front of you right now. 5 to 10, just get a handful of things down, because we're actually going to use this as we walk through today's training. All right, good. Raise your hand if you've got at least 5 things on that list. Hopefully you've got at least 5, because even with 5 things, we can work through that list. All right. So what I like to do is talk about an A, a B, a C, and a double A list as it relates to this proverbial to-do. Now your A's are going to end up being an item on that list where an action is a priority, or this action leads you to where you want to be. So remember, we talked about that vision. So if I'm looking down my to-do list and I see, oh yeah, this action leads me to where I want to be. Now, sometimes it could even be something like picking up your dry cleaning, which is an essential thing, right? But on that day, it may or may not be essential to pick the dry cleaning up that day, unless, of course, you're giving this massive speech to a room full of people and you need that incredible business suit that you purchased, right? That starts moving it up your scale. So your A is an action or priority that leads you to where you want to be. Your B is where the action may lead you to want to be, but maybe it's not currently a priority. And this could be that dry cleaning example if your event's happening next week. Or maybe in your business, it might be, yeah, I need to type up notes for a meeting that I was at, but they don't need to go out until a week from now. So that's important, but it's probably not on the A list, right? It's probably more on that B list. And your C list is really everything else. I have this running C list, and I call my C list, actually it looks more like a whiteboard with all these little sticky notes. Like, these are great ideas. These are things I'd like to do. These are things I want to implement, but they're not a priority. It might get me to where I want to be, but it might not. At this point, it's kind of just an idea or a thought that may lead somewhere, but excuse me, I may not know that yet. So that's where the C list comes. Now, your double A are these top priority, urgent. This has to get done now. So a great example of this would be, obviously I'm doing this presentation at 9 o'clock this morning. It is probably a double A that my slides better be done before 8 a.m. this morning. Now, my slides were done well in advance of that, just because I don't like to wait till the last minute on something like this, because it's very important to me to make sure that I deliver a product that is not only going to meet your expectations, but probably exceed your expectation. That's just who I am. So that is a top priority. That's a double A for me. So I better have that done. Once the double A gets moved out, then I can move to my A's on my list, right? Does this kind of give me a nod? Is this making sense? All right. So what this is really about doing is prioritizing, not just saying, well, this might be important, because you're getting very intentional about, this is why this is important, and this is why it belongs either on the double A, B, or C list. I know at first you're looking at this going, okay, this is a little interesting. Once you get this system down and you start using it, you will know, just like literally, I can pretty much put something on my list right now. I already know which category it goes in just because I've been doing this for a long time. You will get to that point too, and you'll automatically know this is what I need to do next. So trust me on that process. So your tasks will sometimes shift, and that's okay. Because, for example, so we talked about, like right now, this presentation was a double A for me at 8 a.m. this morning. But the minute that this presentation is done, something that's on my A list may work up to my double A list. I'm doing a major presentation tomorrow morning for my own business. Well, obviously, after this one's done, guess what goes on to my double A list? That goes on my double A list. You have those kind of things all the time. And whether it's a client or service, or maybe if you're retail or restaurants, so restaurants, if they create a new menu each week, right? The double A, when the new menu gets released, is right there. But then all of a sudden, okay, that goes, okay, now it's okay. What does food prep look like, right? Whereas all of a sudden, as it gets closer to the end of the next week, oh, what are we putting on the menu? What's our fresh menu, right? So this is the kind of thing, like, it's okay that they're shifting. This is why, so you can choose how you want to track this stuff. I love handwritten lists. I don't know why there's energy or a power to me every time. And this is another, I either love to write it in pencil or in Sharpie colors. Don't ask me about what in that energy is. Well, I probably know from a neuroscience perspective what that is, but everybody has different what works for them. Use what works for you. I do also sometimes use a whiteboard. That joy that you see behind me, I actually can move that to the side, and I have a whiteboard behind it. And so I can actually track my tasks or my goals, my vision, or the task as they relate to the vision right on that whiteboard. So that as I'm moving things around, I just erase it off, and then I shift something to where it should go in the moment. So whiteboards are great, right? Because it's pretty easy to erase and write something else. Some people use Excel spreadsheets. For me, Excel spreadsheets, the minute I put on, it just lost in my brain. It just doesn't, I don't have an energy around that, but I know people who for them, that's what gives them energy. Use what works for you as you are tracking the A's, B's, C's, and the double A's. Okay, I'm gonna just take a quick pause. Does anybody have questions about the double A's, A's, B's, C's? Because that is like the first part of making sure you understand this. I don't see any questions coming up here. Okay. And by the way, feel free to put in the chat anytime if you have any questions. And so now we're going to continue. So we were talking about the prioritizing. Now we're talking delegating, releasing, and then also making decisions. So let's talk about priorities. One of the questions that you want to ask yourself is, what is the most important thing? Now, generally, that's probably going to come from the double A list, right? But sometimes it could be an A. I'm trying to think of an example of, well, I'll give you an example for me this morning. This is clearly a double A. Fortunately, I'd worked on it in advance, but my son had a tooth procedure yesterday. If my son all of a sudden came up and he was having issues, that would quickly, right? That would quickly move up to the most important thing now, right? So there are times where you can see that type of a wobbly. I think we all get what we're talking about there. Most of the time when you say, okay, what's the most important thing now? So what I want you to do is I want you to look over that list that you started with, thinking of the double A, B, C, and I want you to write down, what is the most important thing now? And if you've got two, I might let you do that, but we'll whittle it down. Sometimes it's just hard to make a decision. Now, this is where I get to that next thing. And this is why if you had two, it might be okay. So the next question, as you look at that priority list or the one or two things that you jotted down, is this something that can be delegated or released? Sometimes it's outsourcing, sometimes it's handing off an item. So raise your hand if anybody deals with the C word on this. We know what I mean by the C word, that would be control. So, so I'm just gonna say that a lot of us deal with it. And so what I know is that being aware of it is the first step to saying, okay, I know that I like to be in control of these. then it's about, yeah, what is that control really about? Is it about perfectionism? Is it about maybe there truly isn't somebody that has that skill set that can do it? Is it about thinking, well, nobody can do it as good as I can? Like, right, there's a lot of control. And I know about, this has been one of the things I'm constantly working on for myself. And what I also know is sometimes there are people that we can delegate and release to that will do an amazing job. It may not be exactly what you would have done, but maybe that will actually open up to other possibility, because sometimes other people see something that we don't see, or maybe they have a specific skill set that we don't have. So an example, I can use a great example of this. So I do a lot of work with the SBDC, and there's some of the stuff I just don't particularly like. It's not that I don't enjoy, but at times. So for example, oftentimes I'll say to Amy, hey, could you assist me with the slides? Or could you take care of this? Or now, like, we've got Amina doing these amazing marketing things for the SBDC that Amy was able to say, Amina, can you work on this? Prior to Amina was Jackson working on it. And it's not that Amy doesn't have a part, but she's able to bring other people in. And the only reason I'm going to use an example with my personal business is because I think a lot of you will understand what I mean by this. I don't have time to make graphics. I don't have time to do all the funnel systems that are, you know, in the background. And so I will actually purchase things such as ActiveCampaign, ClickFunnels, which some of you, if you do any kind of emailing or do those kind of systems, those are great tools to use. And I even sometimes hire someone to set all that stuff up for me, because I want to focus on being with people, right? I want to focus on what it is that I'm good at. So sometimes in that, it might be, hey, what is a service that I can outsource or something I can use that would be beneficial to the business? Some people, I'm going to use the restaurant example again. We have a lot of clients who are restaurant people. Instead of hiring their own delivery person, they may use something in a delivery service, whether it's one of the local, there are local businesses now doing delivery services, or sometimes now even the Ubers and Lyfts and those kind of people have gotten into that market as well. So there's a lot of ways to do that type of thing instead of even hiring people and worrying about it yourself or having to worry about that component. So I want you to jot down as you think about the priority list, and if the thing that you wrote down doesn't have to do with delegate or release, look over that initial list and find something that does look like it could be delegated or released, because this is about the act of giving yourself permission to do that. And by the way, I, excuse me, sometimes write permission slips to myself with, Deb, you have permission to release this item out, or Deb, you have permission to not have to be in control of this. And I know it sounds really funny, but there's something about writing yourself a permission slip. And Amy and I were kind of joking before we got onto this webinar about how we were raised in generations that had a completely different set of rules, is probably a good way of saying it. And so sometimes things that maybe were true 20 years ago or 30 years ago aren't necessarily true today, but we all probably grew up with, well, you have to get a signed permission slip to do anything pretty much, right? And so I have found that my brain has this form that it makes up around that. So if I can write myself my own, Deb, you have permission to. Trust me, this works on multiple levels, and it really does work. All right, now you get to make a decision. You get to make a decision about what you can choose to do now. So as you look at that priority list, you think about what you could delegate or release. What can you do now? What is the choice that you are making with that biggest priority? So go ahead and jot that down. What can you do now? What is the one thing that you can do now? By the way, sometimes making a decision too is, I need to get more information before I make a decision. Now, I'm not talking about people who have input on their strengths finder, because input, you'll keep getting information, okay, you'll never make a decision because your input will always want to get more information. I'm talking about, I need to make a decision if I'm going to go with Constant Contact or MailChimp. So the decision you're making is, here are the questions I need to ask and the information I need to get to make a decision. So the next step may be, I'm going to contact both, ask these 3 questions, and then commit to making a decision within 24 hours of that response. Does this make sense? Like you're giving yourself, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm making that decision. By the way, one thing I found out, a lot of people get hung up on, it's very interesting what we get hung up on depending on our personalities. I was sitting in a seminar with a gal, and she finally started hiring somebody to make her decision. She was working on websites and stuff. She finally started hiring somebody to make decisions on font, color, look, because she said she was getting so hung up on the perfect color, the perfect font. She literally was spending days not doing anything because she had gotten so hung up in the process of that. So one of the things that one of my favorite sayings is make a decision and make that the right decision. Once you make the decision, make that the right decision. So if I choose to go with a certain system, I need to make that the right decision until further notice. Now, obviously, if I'm in that system 6 months and it's not working, I may need to make a change. But have you ever signed up for a program and then you sit there and go, well, I hope this was the right decision. I hope I get something out of this. Da, 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 da. Okay, if you sign up for something, make it the right decision. Go to it with the expectation that you're going to get something out of it. It's all about your mindset and how you walk into that. So as you're making these decisions, make that the right decision. Make whatever you chose that you can do now the right decision and get her done. It's that, I don't mean to say it's that simple, but it kind of is. Okay. So here's a couple of questions. I call these these are the gold nugget questions. Is what I'm doing now getting me to where I need to be or want to be? So for example, when you are making that priority list and you're doing something, ask yourself, is this getting me to where I want to be with my business? Or if you chose something in your personal life, is what I'm doing here getting me to where I want to be in my personal life? If you cannot answer yes to that, it might be time to look, okay, what is my motive? Why am I doing this? We can really get caught up in a lot of busy work, doing a lot of stuff that doesn't get us anywhere. And this is why, again, I talked about that input thing, like people who love to research, they'll research till the cows come home. They really will. That's why you need somebody who says, okay, we're making a decision within the next 5 minutes. What are the calibrator questions that we need to look at? Another great question I love is, what am I saying yes to and what am I saying no to? Because every time we make a yes decision, we're making a no decision at the same time. You said yes to coming on this webinar today. You obviously said no to something else, whether that was a lunch break or maybe you're eating while we're talking. It might be that you said no to attending a different webinar. That everything has a yes and a no. Everything does. And that is why making your yes a piece of your priority and a piece of where you want to be is absolutely essential. I use this question all the time. Somebody asked me to do something. Okay, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? And I did not used to do a very good job with this, and I kept saying too many yeses in terms of not thinking about what I was saying no to. So I was giving away so much of myself because I was saying yes, but what I was saying was no to me, no to my time, no to my self-care, right? I don't do that anymore. I'm very, very intentional about it. And then asking yourself, what's important now? Right now, in this moment, what's important? Obviously, it was important to you to be here. So then it's, once you get off this call, what's important now? What's the most important thing that's going to make the biggest impact? That's the AA, right? And that's where you get your time in. Does this make sense? I'm kind of getting some, yeah, okay. I know I'm probably making it sound simpler than it is, but the more, yeah, great, thanks, Amina. The simpler you can make it in terms of not overthinking it, where you get into troubles when you overthink it, right? Because the minute we start overthinking, we start doubting ourselves. And the minute you put doubt in, by the way, the opposite of doubt is commitment. People think the opposite of doubt is all this other stuff. It's commitment. Because the minute you commit to something, the doubt goes away. Because commit and make it the right decision. And then the doubt goes away. Does this make sense? I mean, have you ever thought about it before that way? No. But the opposite of doubt is commitment. And the minute you get to that commitment phase, like make that the right decision and keep moving forward. So a couple of things that I do is I keep a mini notebook on the go. And whoops, sorry, I just hit the chatty thing. Whoop. I got to go back. Maybe. I don't know. Can I go back? I don't know if I can go back. I'll just talk about this. I'm not sure what I just did. So the mini notebook, the reason I do that is for me, what happens is I start driving and then your brain goes into default mode network. That's like the dream state. And all of a sudden I have all these things going, oh, dad. And then I just get them down on my notebook so that I can get them back into my AA ABC system. But if I don't do the notebook, I'm taking up so much brain space with all these things that are roaming around in there. And so the minute I get them down on the paper, it frees my brain up again to focus where I need it to be. So now we're going to talk about part 3 of this, which is really that focus and this accountability. Because I can sit here and share all these great things. You can go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But if we don't focus in and get the accountability, that's where we struggle and we get into issues. And it really is just like riding a bike. It's a muscle. This is practicing a muscle. And I know a lot of times we think about going to the gym and weights, and the more consistent you are, the better you're going to perform. It's the same with doing this strategy for really honing in on what's important now and making sure that you've got a great strategy in place for this. The reason I put the 2 cups of coffee is this just reminds me of sitting down with a good friend or an accountability partner, someone that I can share my goals and my dreams with, but also someone who's going to hold me accountable. So accountability people in my life look like, Deb, you committed to doing ... How are you doing on those priorities? What's important to you about getting these done? When can we expect to have them done? That's what an accountability partner does. Now, a friend, you might just have a good cup of coffee and it may not really be about that. But I tend to share a lot of coffee, even with accountability partners. So that's why I put this slide up here. But I want you to think about someone in your life that could be that kind of accountability partner, because this really is a critical component of making sure that you stay on track. Now, if you are working with a small business development consultant, this can be one piece of what they do. We're not executive coaches. That's not really, and I want to be careful how I say this. We're consultants, but sometimes you'll get coach-like style from us, depending on who you're working with. But it's not our job to call you in a week and say, so how are you doing on those goals? That's not how the consulting works. How it does work, however, is when we meet with you, we will come up with a series of strategies that you will be putting into play, and then we'll have a follow-up meeting scheduled. And obviously that is when you can say, well, here's how I'm doing on that list. But we're not like a babysitter, if that makes any sense. But we can be a part of that accountability process. I'd recommend also having somebody, but if you are not working with someone from the Small Business Development Center, at no cost to you, we provide amazing consulting services with marketing, business development and planning, strategic planning. So, I mean, I could go on and on and on. So reach out to Amy if that is something that you're interested in. You're not currently one of our clients. We'd love to help you. I do want to just put this little, I call it the red flag. A lot of things can be tools and they can also be distractions. So as you're looking at the what's important now, like your phone and computer can actually help you stay on track if you use them the right way. They can also become a huge distraction. So for example, I have to go on and post something for Facebook for my business. Oh, look what so-and-so's doing. And the next thing I know, I'm Facebook scrolling and I've been on there for 30 minutes. Like, hello, that was not the point. So I actually use, I didn't bring it in here, a little timer that when I go to post my thing, I will basically set a timer. And I pretty much know how long it takes me to do a post. If that timer goes off, it means I've probably gotten distracted. But it immediately brings me back to, I've got things on my priority list that I need to get done. Now, so I'm not saying that there isn't an intentional time where you can say, I'm giving myself 30 minutes to Facebook scroll because I just need an escape right now. That's different because that is an intentional decision and it's feeding a piece of you that may feel important in that moment, right? I have no judgment around that. It's when you know or want to be getting something done and stay on focus and track that we want to just be careful of what that distraction can look like. And it can be, oh my gosh, it can be little things, you guys. I mean, I have had, with working at home, we have 3 dogs. this can really be a distraction because they constantly want my attention, right? And I love them. They're amazing. But I finally realized, okay, if I can get up and I can do this, then they're fine for a 3-hour little rest on the couch. And then at lunch, right? So I kind of had to get a little system down because like literally every 5 minutes, one of them was coming in to play ball or, you know, play tug of war. If you have dogs, you know what I'm talking about here. So just be aware of those things. Here's just some of my little tips. Limit the times you check your email. If you have your email on all the time and you literally get on every single time it's going off, there's studies on this of how much time per day that takes. I used to constantly have mine on. Now I find I'm putting it on like 2 to 3 times a day and checking it. Unless I have something major coming up where people might be emailing me for information or confirmation, right? There's something major going on where I know people are probably going to be more in contact with me than normal. I say do the things you dread the most right away in the morning. I attack with a vengeance that list of things. Literally, I get up usually around 5:36 in the morning and, you know, grab a coffee, some water, etc. And then I literally will pick up the thing that I just like, that feeling, and I will do it right away. And you know what's amazing is how much energy I get after that thing is done, because it's like, how much space has that been taking up in my brain? I've even found sometimes at the end of the day, if I have a little bit of time and I've had just like a great day, every once in a while I'll pick up one of those, I call them the dreaded things, just to get it done, and then I don't have to deal with it the next morning. But this strategy has worked really well for me, and it is amazing how much energy you free up once it's done. Notice when your distractions are getting in the way, shift immediately. The minute you notice the distraction and that awareness comes in, tell your brain, you got to make a decision. There's some great, oh my gosh, I just forgot the gal's name. I literally just lost it. She wears these super cool skirts when she presents on the stage. She wrote the 5-second rule book. If somebody knows it, type it in the, I can't believe I can't think of her name right. Mel Robbins, no relation to Tony. Mel has this thing. She used to deal with the severe anxiety, etc. Her testimony is great. Like, her story is awesome. And I actually had the chance to hear her speak in person. And so her thing is, you kind of want to trick the brain. So whenever you start to feel like, I don't know if I can do that, or what, you get that doubt or whatever, she goes, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, dial the phone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take a step forward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Most people, like, right, they do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, the problem is the brain is so used to that, it like doesn't even do anything. But I want you to test this out because it does work. When you kind of start like, I don't really want to make this call. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, dial. And then, oh shoot, now I have to talk to them. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, talk. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, leave a message. Like, literally, it's like ding, 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 and it like tricks your brain into taking an action, so that if you do it enough times, you'll actually get her done. She's got her book is great, by the way. If this isn't a thing for you, seriously check out her book. It's great, and it's actually even pretty good on the Audible. Be intentional when returning your phone calls. I get a lot of calls a day, and I used to like do them right away. Now what I realized, unless it's a AA or an A, if it's a B or C, I'll save them up and then just do them right in a row. Just because it's more efficient that way. And I can sit down in one place and do them, take notes if I need to. It's just not as distracting. But I will say, again, if it's a AA or A, obviously I call them right back. Like, that's not even a question. I don't want people to think, if you don't hear from me, it's not, it's just, it might be that I had a AA or A that I needed to get done right away. I used to say each night write down 3 or 5 things you'll do the next day. I've changed that to 3 during COVID. What we are finding during COVID is the minute you get over 3, it's been really hard for people to focus. So write down 3 things you're going to do the next day. When you do that before you go to bed at night, your subconscious actually already starts to figure out how it's going to get it done. And you guys, I'm telling you, you got to trust me on this. I would love to hear from you after you start doing this. You will be amazed at how efficient and effective you get. Like, literally, when I do this before I go to bed, I can get up and in 1 hour, I will get things done that normally would have taken me 3 to 4 hours. It's because your brain has already sorted through and figured out how to get those 3 things done the most efficient and effective way. we are not using our brains for the capacity that they have at all. So that's just, I just want to mention that to you, because that's one of just my, I call that Deb's tip of the day, because this probably is one of the most efficient and effective things that I do. So we are going to put a little hands-on action in place for you right now. I want you to write down 3 items needing your attention right now. And I'm going to go ahead and run the timer. Should be doing this at the same time too. All right, super. Now, which of those 2 are the biggest priority for you? Which of the 2 are the biggest priority for you? You guys love those little timer things at the bottom. My friend helped me do these. That, by the way, that was an example of outsourcing, right? I have a friend who could do that, so she did it and got that part set up. Which one will you start with? And when will you start it? Probably don't need quite as much time on this one. All right, now normally we would have a little interaction here. If anybody wants to say anything, please feel free to unmute and say something. But if you don't, I'm just gonna keep moving. But so if you're watching this on a delayed watch time, just know that if you need to have a conversation around anything, please feel free to reach out to the Small Business Development Center office and we can talk through that list with you as well. So we went through what's at stake and why we need to look at what's important now. We talked about how to do it. And then we talked about having accountability and focus, which I think is probably why, if you don't have the accountability and focus, right, you're probably not going to get it done. So that's important. So I want to thank you for joining us for the What's Important Now. And I just want to also thank you for supporting the West Central Minnesota Small Business Development Center. We hope that we've done 3, this is our 3rd that we've done this month, has been very helpful to you. And I will take, if there are any questions, I'm going to do a stop share of my screen. And then does anybody have any questions that I can answer for you? Sorry, my computer started to almost take a dive there.
Yeah, but I don't have any questions, but I'm kind of excited about this. I didn't think about how much I would need this, but I'm doing some of the things on your list. But I think I could be better at strategizing that and definitely better at the delegation part, figuring out what to delegate because of that C word, the control issue.
The C word.
So thank you.
Well, what I would love to do is I'd love to research what percentage of women versus men deal with the C word more, or is it more of a personality trait? Like it's fascinating to me because I think, think about it as women, a lot of people are moms, they're, daughters. I mean, there's so many different roles that we play that are kind of interesting. Oh, Teresa, I love it. Yes, you're so welcome, Teresa. Teresa, I'm not sure, what kind of a business do you have? I was just kind of curious. I love knowing what people do. Now I got her on the pressure to type. An insurance agency. Okay, excellent. Oh, good. So with the insurance agency, of course, the different prioritizing becomes so, right? Because depending on what kind of policies people are getting, or if somebody was in an accident, I mean, you've got that all the time, right? With stuff that Teresa, do you have help in your office or are you solo? making your type. One employee. Okay. So hopefully you're the employee that you do have. What are you in Moorhead, or are you in like Fergus for out? Maybe Amy might already know this. I'm just kind of curious.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Rogers.
Oh,
Rogers,
you're in
Minnesota.
Rogers. Okay, super. So anyway, yeah. So Teresa, the biggest thing, if you have any questions, I don't know if you're an SBDC client, but feel free to sign up, because again, those services are no cost to you. So if you're not a client, feel free to reach out. We can do a one-on-one Zoom meeting if you need things specific to your place. And we do we do a lot of marketing stuff. We do a lot of different strategic planning. So this is just one example of what we do. So please feel free to reach out if that's something you're interested in as well. That would be awesome. And of course, Amina is one of our interns this year. She does a great job, and Amy does a great job. So I'm just so grateful. Everybody, yeah, I'm so grateful, and so grateful to be getting to know you, Amina.
Thank you very much. It was very useful as a student.
Yeah,
you struggle where to find that priority. I mean, now I have made my list of 3 things that I have to do today. Of course, that 3 thing goes to 10 things at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I'm much like you. I always write. If I have it written and then I can't like take it off from my list, it gives me like joy that I did something.
It's so true, isn't it?
Yeah. And as much as I do, as better I feel. So it's kind of very cool. Like I see my planner and I'm like, wow, you did this 10 things in a day. Even sometimes it's like 15 things. And I always like ask, can I have more time? And I'm like, no, you have like enough. So it's very useful. Thank you very much for great presentation.
You're so
And I'm
welcome.
going to check Mel Robinson's book. So I'm curious.
Yeah, Robbins. It's Robbins.
Okay, Robbins.
And it's called the 5-second rule.
Okay.
Yeah, she's got a pretty amazing story, and she's a cute presenter. She wears these super cool skirts. I don't know how to explain it. When she presents, she wears these just super cool skirts. It's kind of part of her brand, right? Part of her how she's branded herself. So
that's cool.
Well, I just am so grateful for everybody being here today. Like, what a joy to have this today. There's snow outside, and we have a little joy going on here and some sunshine. And so please don't hesitate, anybody, to reach out if you have any questions about this topic or anything related to the business stuff. And we're so here to help everybody. We want you to be successful, right?
Thank you very much, Deb.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amy, you're going to get this up on, is it the website, or where does it go?
It goes onto our YouTube account, and then I'll have Amina do a social media post probably next week. I think this week is already scheduled out, but probably next week sometime we'll get those posted. And I will add them to our newsletter as well, so people can come back and revisit.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Just have an incredible day, and yeah, we'll see you there. Yeah. Thanks, Teresa.
Bye,
You have a great day too.
Bye, Amina.